So in this video we're going to talk about lesson 3.7. Lesson 3.7 gets me into one of those topics that I really enjoy in math. Being able to plot things on a coordinate plane. So this image is what we call a coordinate plane. Notice it's made up of several different factors. We have what is called the four quadrants. Normally we talk about things, we go in clockwise direction, but on a coordinate plane it actually goes in a counter-clockwise direction. So quadrant 1 and 2, 3 and 4, notice it's made up of number lines, the horizontal number line known as the X and the horizontal number line known as the Y. So I'm going to go through on how we do these different lessons. Once again, follow along, use your pencil, write down what I'm showing you and write down the information that I give you. That way you have the information to go back to, and once again, you'll have that muscle memory as you're working through these problems to remember and understand what it is that we're doing. So the first thing is we have a lot of words for the first time really throughout our entire math book so far this year with definitions and things we have to know. So the first one is a coordinate plane. Well, this is a coordinate plane, just like on the very first page. It is usually in a graph paper where I can plot things according to an x-axis, a y-axis, which are two of the other terms. The x-axis is always going to be horizontal. It's always going to have positive on the right. It's going to have negative on the left because that's my positive negative number line. Now in the previous lesson we talked about a vertical number line. So that would be my y-axis when we talked about diving down in the ocean. Above water would have been the positive numbers and the negative numbers would be going down on the number line. So I think you understand the positive and the negative and the x and y axis. We have a point of origin, we have ordered pairs, and then we have a coordinate, which is just simply a number. So first we talked once again about the horizontal x and y. I'm always going to go forward if it's a positive. I'm always going to go backwards if it's a negative on the x-axis. The y-axis, once again, goes up and down. It is vertical. The top of the y makes a V. A leg of the y goes straight down just like the y-axis itself. Up above is always going to be positive numbers. Down below is always going to be my negative numbers. That's always going to be the same on every coordinate plane that I use. Sometimes the coordinate plane will just be a small one, like this one only goes to positives and negatives of 5, both up and down and forward and backwards. Sometimes they may go out to 40, sometimes they may go out to 65, and they make them with really small boxes. But just this idea here is our coordinate plane, and that's what we're going to be plotting things on. When I talk about ordered pairs then, I'm always going to have my x going first, followed by my y. I'm always going to go horizontally forward or backwards before I go up or down on my y-axis. Another aspect that we talk about when we come to these is my point of origin. My point of origin is always just 0, 0. Right in the center is my origin on every coordinate plane. I don't go forward, I don't go backwards. It's kind of like this dog. He's just stuck there. He's refusing to move. So he is our origin. He's just stuck right in the center. Doesn't go forward, doesn't go backwards. He's just a tired dog. So what this all involves in, and I've been trying to get other people to teach it this way also because it's the easiest way I think to truly understand what we do. We are talking about running and jumping. Always running and jumping. I have to run before I jump. If you know anything about action figures or action stars, you know Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan is always running somewhere and then jumping, leaping over, under, up, down. But he always gets a running start. Or maybe you want to talk about the Black Panther in the Avengers movie. He takes off running through a tunnel, chasing the Winter Soldier before he jumps after him. He has to get that momentum to run before he jumps. Or if we just talk about sports with the long jump. You're not going to get very far if I would just stand on this whiteboard and jump. So they get this entire distance to run as fast as they possibly can before they leap into the air. We're always going to run before we jump, and if we remember to run before we jump, we're always going to get it correct. That's why when we have the X and the Y, it tells me to run before I jump. My X is always going to be plotted first. My Y is always going to be plotted last. My X will tell me to go forward if it's a positive number, run backwards if it's a negative number. And then when I get to my Y, my second number in my ordered pair, then I will either jump up if it's positive or jump down if it's negative. So we're going to try this. We're going to work on doing it. And as we do these, I'm going to remind you over and over again and have up on my board that all this is remembering to run before I jump. Every time. So when I look at my coordinate plane, we're talking about different treasures here. It says a screen in a video game shows a coordinate plane. The points P, Q, R, and S represent treasure chests. Write the ordered pair for each treasure chest location. So in order to write the ordered pair, I have to remember that I'm going to run before I jump. If I run forward, I'll have positive numbers. So my X would be a positive. If I have to run backwards, then it's going to be a negative. So my X would be a negative. Once I do my X, then I'm either going to jump up or I'm going to jump down. And if I jump up, my Y would be a positive. But if I jump down, then my Y would be a negative. So it asks for point P, and it tells us it is located where? At -2 something. Well, I know it's -2 because I'm going to start at my point of origin. Now, when I plot something on a coordinate plane, I always start at the point of origin. I don't pick up from a previous point. I always go to the center where that lazy dog was, and I'm going to go in the direction it tells me to. When I go, and I'm heading to point P, I'm moving backwards 1, 2. So I know that -2 is the correct x-axis. Then going to P, I have to jump up. I'm going to jump up 1, 2, 3. So it's a +3 because I'm jumping up. So my coordinates, or my ordered pair for P is a -2, +3. I ran backwards, and then I jumped up. For Q then, I locate Q on my map. Q, I have to start once again at my point of origin. So I start at my 0, 0. I'm going to go backwards. So I go 1, 2, 3. Now notice I'm always going to the lines. I don't count spaces. I go to the actual lines, and it's going to be crossing points for those lines. I went backwards -3, so my X tells me that I ran back 3. And then on Q, I'm jumping down 1, 2, 3. Jumping down is a negative. So it is also -3. So my ordered pair would be -3, -3. It tells me to run backwards and jump down. For R then, R is way out here in the top right. That was quadrant 1 on the very first screen. So I know I'm going to run forward. And forward on the number line tells me I'm going to be a positive number. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to have a +4 as my X in my running. And then when I jump up, it has to be positive as well. And I'm jumping up 1, 2, 3. So I ran forward 4, and I jumped up 3. My X is 4, my Y is +3. The last one on this one is point S is located at, and when I go to my point of origin, I'm not running at all. So one of the things I can have in an ordered pair is I can have a 0. If I don't run forward or backwards, my X has to be a 0. Or if I don't jump up or down, then my Y would be a 0. In this case, I'm not running forward or backwards at all, so it's going to be 0. And then I'm jumping down 1, 2. So I should have 0, -2 written in my book. The next page then takes me to the examples that they give me. Now notice we got something different here that we didn't have on the previous screens. We have a -1/2. Can I go halfway between a line to another line? Well, absolutely. So I'm going to work on, to do red on this one. It gives me my first one, and remember that we're running before we jump. So my first one is always going to be on the x-axis going forward positive or backwards negative, and this is +2. So I'm going to go forward 2. 1, 2. Now notice the way this one's drawn. it gives me halfway marks already between the 0 and the 1 and between the 1 and the 2. So that makes the next part a lot easier. It says I'm going to go to a negative half. Well, negative 1 would be 2 lines, wouldn't it? So halfway between would be that 1 line down. So my coordinate or ordered pair is going to be a positive 2, negative 1 half, and then it tells me to plot the point and label it A. So I have two things I have to do there to get my points. I have to put my point in the right direction, and then I have to label it like it asked me to. B and C are very similar. For B, it tells me I'm going to go negative 0.5. Well, that's a decimal, but it still means I'm only going to go halfway. So decimals will work on a coordinate plane as well. So I'm going to go 0.5 backwards because it's negative. So I'm going to go here. And then 0, I'm not going to jump up. I'm not going to jump down. So it's going to be right on the line. Halfway between the 0 and 1 and on the x-axis because I don't leave it. I'm not going to jump up or down. It says the x-coordinate is negative. We'll abbreviate that NEG. So I'm going to move half, or I could say 0.5 of a unit to the left. The y-coordinate is 0, and that point lies on the, well, it's on the x-axis because it doesn't go up or down. So plot that point and label it B. Plotted correctly and the correct label gives me my 2 points for that problem. My last one then, it says plot the point and label it B, or excuse me, C. 2.5, 3/4. So 2.5, so positive. So I'm going to run forward. 1, 2, and then my half would be the line in between. And then it says 3/4. So I know I'm going to jump up because it's a positive number. 3/4. 3/4. Well, if I think about dividing each of these boxes, this is divided in 2, and that's why my halfway mark. So if I divide it into fourths, then I know my 3/4 would be here. So it's going to be halfway between the half and the 1. So when I'm going to plot point C, then I know that it is a positive 2.5 and a positive 3/4. It says to start at the origin, I'm going to move 2 1/2 units to the right. Why? Because it was a positive number. And I'm going to move up 3/4 units because it's a positive number as well. The last one then on D tells me I'm going to go a negative 1.25, same as, once again, 1 1/4. And then I'm going to go a negative 1.75, which would be the same as a negative 1 3/4. So I know I'm going to run backwards, and then I'm going to jump down. So from my 0, I'm going to go negative 1 1/4. So if I divide those into 4 equal pieces again, I know I'm going to be there. And then I'm going to jump down 1 3/4. So once again, that's almost to the 2. So 1 1/4, 1 and... Now notice on that one, it's just in the middle of a box. Is that okay? Sure, because that's exactly where it told me to go. So I'm going to move to the left. Oops, wrong word there. I'm going to move 1 1/4 units to the left because it was negative. And then I'm going to move down. Nope, different number. 1 3/4 units down because it also was negative. So then we get into our practice problems. And I'm not going to work all practice problems because if you notice there's over 30 of them, but we're going to do a lot of them just so we can practice over and over and over again and we truly understand what we're doing here. It says write the ordered pair for point J. So once again, ordered pairs are two numbers inside of parentheses, separated by a comma, just like I've shown you over and over again. The first one is going to be my x-axis. The second one is my y-axis. So for point J, it says start at the origin and move blank units to the blank. So where's J? I believe this is my J here. And if I'm going to J here, I'm going to the left 1 unit. This is a halfway mark, so -1.5. So on J, I'm going to move 1.5 units to the left. So I know that has to be a negative. And then blank units, that takes me up. So 1, 2, 3, 4. No, those are halfway, aren't they? So it's just 1, 2.5. So I'm going to move 2.5 units up. So ordered pairs going left, it's a negative. So I'm going to have -1.5. Now on ordered pairs, my second one tells me I'm going up. That has to be my positive. So up 2.5 for my y. So write the ordered pair for k. Well, k is going to go forward 1 because it's right here. And then it's going to go down 1 and then to that halfway mark. So I went forward, my x. I went down 1.5 for my y. So forward x 1, so it's a positive. And then down on my y tells me it's a -1.5. What about m? Well, m is right there on that line. Still starting at my point of origin, I'm going to only go forward 1 step. So my x has to be a +1. But then I don't jump. So once again, we still have to have a number there, even though I'm not jumping. I'm not jumping up or down, so I know that has to be my 0. It just stays there on that x-axis. It doesn't move at all. So we're going to plot a few of these then as we go through this set. So where you would see 5 on your paper and 7 on your paper, I just kind of whited those out. So I just only have a few to focus in on. On number 6, we're going to plot Q. Now Q tells me I'm going to start with my X and I'm going to run which way? Well, we'll run back. So this takes me to a 2 over here because it says -2. And then 1/4, well, one big jump would be 1. So this dark blue one here would be my halfway. So I know I'm only going to go up into this space between the x-axis and that first halfway line. I knew I went up because on my y it shows a +1/4. So I have -2, 1/4 up. I know I did it correct, so I'm going to label it Q. On number 8 for S, it wants me to plot a -1 and a -1/2. Starting back where? Point of origin. So I'm going to go -1, 1 whole unit to the left, and then I'm going to go a -1/2. So I have to jump down. So -1, half a unit down, takes me right there. And there, I'm going to label it S. Number 10, I'm going to label a U. So I have 0.75 and 1.25. And as I've said for the past several weeks, some of you are really going to like decimals. Some of you are going to really like fractions. If the decimals confuse you, well then please go ahead and change that into a fraction so you know where these go. 0.75, 75 cents, is the same thing, once again, as having 3 out of 4 quarters that I'm talking about. 1.25 would be the same as $1.25, or 1 and 1 out of 4 quarters for another dollar. They're both positive, so my ordered pair could be 3/4 and 1 and 1/4. Still going to plot my X first, so it tells me 3/4. I'm going to run forward since it's positive, halfway, and then halfway between 0.5 and 1 is going to be my positive 3/4. My 1 and 1/4 then takes me up 1 whole unit, those 2 boxes, and then halfway between the 1 and the 1.5. So positive 3/4 to check I went forward. I went up 1 and 1/4. I have it in the right location, so I'm going to label it U. 2 more to do on this set. I have 12. Notice these look very similar, but on 12 for W it has 2 and 0. So once again I'm going to run, but I'm not going to jump. So I'm going to go forward 2 since it's a positive number. 1, 2, and then I stay there because the 0 tells me not to jump. I went forward 2, so I'm going to label it W. On 13, it tells me for X, I'm not going to run at all. I'm going to stay at home. I want to be at that point of origin, just like that lazy dog, but then I'm going to jump down. -2 takes me all the way down there on the Y axis. I stayed at home, and then I jumped down -2. It's in the right location, so I'm going to label it X. My next set, it gives me these letters, and then I have to find the ordered pair. Same thing with the ordered pair. Make sure you're running to find the number first, either forward or backwards, and then jumping, because a lot of times when it comes to finding the ordered pairs, I have students that do it backwards. Always run before you jump. So for A, locating A, it's out here, if you don't see it, and now I look at where I'm running from 0. Notice on this one, every line is numbered, so I'm going to go forward 4, and then I'm going to jump up 4. So running forward is what type of number? Positive. And jumping up, it is positive as well. So for A, I'm going to write my ordered pair. Notice what I have to start with. I have to have parentheses, and I have to have a comma between them. If I just simply put a 4, 4, well, that's 44. That can't be the right answer. And if I put 4, 4, it's not an ordered pair because it's not inside of parentheses. It has to look like an ordered pair in order to be the right answer. For C, then, it's over here. This is quadrant 2 because it's backwards and up. So I'm going to run backwards from 1. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. So my first number, my X, is what type? It's a negative. It's going to be a -3 because I ran back 3. And then my Y, I'm jumping up only 1 box or 1 unit. So it's going to be positive 1. So backwards 3, up 1. That does give me C. I know I did it correct. E takes me down over here in quadrant 4. Quadrant 4 always has me going forward for positive and down for negative. So on E, I'm going to go forward to 5, positive 5. I'm going to jump down to 3 for -3. So my ordered pair for E has to be positive 5, -3. I check it. Forward 5, down 3 does give me E. I know it's correct. 2 more on this set. So for G, I'm in quadrant 3. In quadrant 3, I have double negatives because I'm always going backwards and jumping down. So when I look at G and where it is, I have to go from my point of origin, going backwards 4, and then jumping down to a 5. So backwards tells me negative, so it's a -4. And jumping down is a negative as well, so it's going to be a -5. I check it, -4, -5, does take me to G. I know I did it correct. And then J is kind of out there hanging in this space here. Well, it doesn't quite get to 1. And it doesn't quite go up to 1. So what's that going to be? Well, you have two possible answers you can write. You can either write it as a positive 0.5 for going forward halfway and a positive 0.5 for jumping up halfway. Or if you like fractions, you can put positive 1/2 and positive 1/2. Both of them would take me to J, so I know it's correct. The last set of questions then. It says graph and label the points on the coordinate plane. So I'm going to put them on there and put a label 2 points. So for M, it tells me I'm going to go -4, 0. So -4, 0, I know I'm going to start at my point of origin and I'm going to go left. So I'm going to go -4, I'm running back, and 0 tells me to stay right there on the x-axis. Did I go forward or backwards 4 and stay? I did. So I'm going to label it M, 2 points. On 25 for P, I have a -3, positive 3. So I know I'm going to go backwards and then up. So I'm going to go from my point of origin, backwards -3, and I'm going to go positive, so I'm going to jump up to a positive 3 as well. I went back 3, I went up 3, so I know that P is in the correct spot. So 27, it gives me a positive 0.5 and a positive 0.5. Same thing as saying 1/2 and 1/2, which is what we saw before. So I just know that I have to go forward halfway and up halfway, and I've got that floating dot right there in the center. I know I went forward and up halfway both times, so that one is labeled R. On my last two then, I have 29. I have 0, 0. It's pretty easy, isn't it? 0, 0 is right here in the center. Remember, that's where my origin dog was sitting before. So he would go right there in the center of my box if I could drag him up, which he's not going to let me. So then on my last one, I have a -2 and a -4. So I'm going to go backwards 2, and I'm going to drop down 4. 1, 2, backwards, jump down, 1, 2, 3, 4, -4. If I ran back 2 and I jumped down 4, I know that I'm in the right spot, so that is B. This is really a fun lesson because we could do a lot of fun things with this. One of the things that we'll do here in the near future is I will give you an extra credit assignment Thursday for plotting a picture on a coordinate plane. So if you have questions, please come and ask me. If not, look on my board for your assignment.